Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. We are back on with Marriage Matters. Just excited to be with you guys tonight. Expecting a powerful time as we just begin to talk about marriage and just what getting ready to happen in new marriages in this season.
Yeah. How y'all doing today? We ain't seen y'all in a while.
Yes.
Y'all come on in here. We want to talk to y'all tonight. Want to go over some things tonight. We missed you guys. It's been a while, but we will be on here every Monday at 7 p.m. and on Saturdays at 5 p.m. So kind of mark it down. You guys gonna get things from us during the week. Just about what we want to talk about. We're advocates for marriage. We want to see marriages healed and restored, and ones that are healthy to continue on being healthy. And so we're advocates for marriage. So come on in here, share this status, like it, comment, ask questions. But we missed you all. We missed y'all.
Absolutely. So we thank you guys that are tuning in. We're going to ask that you would share, that you would just invite other people on, that you would just come on as we begin to talk about marriage and the powerful things that God is getting ready to do through marriages. Tonight, our topic is entitled, "It's Broke and I Don't Want to Fix It." And for those of you that have been married or have been in marriage for a really long time, that you understand when it comes to a place when it's just, when you do get tired and you may want to even walk away or even feel like you want to walk away. So tonight we want to really begin to just deal with some core root things in marriage and really just hope that you guys are blessed. Just want to start off by introducing ourselves. My name is Nina Guyton.
And I'm Ronald Guyton.
And we are the senior leaders of Manifested Power, and just founders of Manifested Power, and also just newly launching Marriage Matters. We have been married for 14 years.
Yes, 14 great years.
We have 3 wonderful children, and we are just excited about what God is getting ready to do through marriages and what He's getting ready to do with His people everywhere. So just starting off this broadcast, I hope you guys had a wonderful, wonderful holiday and just a wonderful time. But just starting off, we just want to kind of give you a little background history about our story, about the things that God has brought us through and the things that we've experienced in our marriage.
Yes. So we have, like my wife already said, we've been married 14 years. We met 15 years ago. It didn't take us very long to get married. But when we actually got together, my wife, and we shared this before, but my wife was actually married, but she wasn't with. They were separated, but they weren't legally separated. So there was no divorce in place or anything. And so she was still married legally and everything. And so we kind of just blew it off, and we did start dating and things like that. We both were in church, and we both knew, we knew the right thing to do, but we didn't do it. And so we started out pretty much in a dysfunctional relationship, to the point where, my wife was, she was still married. And so during that time, she ended up getting pregnant. And so we had we had a son during my son was conceived during this time. And so it started out really rough, really rocky. And we could try to convince ourselves that we was doing it okay, because I said, hey, I'm just gonna pay for it, and I'll pay for the divorce and get it done. But we didn't do it the right way. And so it started out dysfunctional, started out pretty much in adultery, started out it's just wrong. And so, but throughout that process, when we did get married, shortly after my son was born, we got married, and things was okay in the beginning. However, as we begin to grow and as we begin to get closer to one another, we didn't know each other. We didn't really get any time to get to know each other. We were living together before we got married. We just did a whole bunch of out of order stuff that we shouldn't have done. And so now that we think about it, we realize we could have done it better. However, now we're married, and so what do we do now? So we have to deal with our marriage. And so we had to get to learn one another, get to know one another, had to put up with stuff that we didn't really necessarily know we had to put up with. We had to learn each other's attitudes, personalities, everything had to shift, everything had to change. And that is not an easy process. That is not something that just came easy to myself or to my wife. And so she didn't know me, I didn't know her, and in getting to know one another, just to be honest, sometimes I just didn't like doing what I was doing. I didn't like it. Not that I didn't love her. I'm like, I don't know if I want to share everything. I don't know if I want to, be open with everything. I don't know if I was living my life fine. Mm-hmm. She was living her life fine. We were okay. But now we got to come together and compromise. And so we went through a whole lot of stuff in the beginning stages of our marriage. We were young. I was 21. She was 22. And so that was, that was kind of the thing. We letting stuff get in between us and things like that. And so, but we had to go through it, and we went through it, and the Lord brought us out of it. But it was not an easy process. But we started out absolutely the wrong way.
Yeah.
We started out the wrong way. Like I said, both of us. I've been saved for a long time. I've been in church my whole life. My wife was actively prophesying and everything, and so to the point where we knew we would be convicted, go home like I don't want to. We we know better, and so conviction set in, everything, and so. But we started out rough. But the Lord God has always covered us. He's always given us a way of escape. So we are blessed for that.
Absolutely. As my husband stated, our marriage started very dysfunctional. And so what our testimony really is that God has the power to turn something dysfunctional and make it functional.
Makes it healthy.
We're living testimonies. As he stated, when we met, our marriage was birthed out of dysfunction.
Yes, it was.
I like he said, I was married. I was legally married to someone when I met my husband, and then we pursued a relationship. And for those of you that are like, okay, oh my gosh, how could you do that? You never know what you will enter into until you are placed into different situations.
That's right.
So you never should judge what an individual does or decisions that they make or choices that they make, because you don't know what kind of choice that you will make.
That's right.
Or what could happen in your life as a result of of just being in a situation. Until you are placed in a situation, you really don't know what you would do.
That's right.
And I'm saying, even some of us that that say, oh, no, I would never find myself. Never say never. Never say never, because you don't know. If you've never been placed under that kind of pressure, if you've never been placed into a certain situation, you don't know what you have the capabilities of doing. It is the grace of God that keeps us. It is God who literally empowers us to do what it is that we do. And so we don't just serve God because we're perfect and we just are so good and so gracious, but it is because of His grace and His mercy.
Absolutely.
And my husband and I found ourselves in a situation where we engaged, in ungodly activity, and we knew better. There are those that say, "Oh, I got into this and I didn't know better." We knew better. We knew the word. I prophesied. He was in church. He was raised in church and things like that. So we knew better. But when the flesh wants what it wants, and that's why you have to take authority over the flesh, because when the flesh wants what it wants, you'll find yourself doing things that you just should not be doing. And so yes, my marriage, and I'm not ashamed to say, because it's by grace and mercy, but my marriage was not birthed out. I don't have a storybook marriage. It wasn't birthed out of perfection. My marriage was birthed in us in an active relationship in adultery. Woo! I said it. My God. Lord. Hey. But we were in adultery. We were in adultery. I was not legally divorced, and we pursued this, and because of that, I came out of one marriage dysfunctional and entered into a marriage with my husband. Once we did, close that door and everything, we began to go into a relationship with a lot of baggage. And I know you guys know what it means to take baggage into a relationship.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
It is so important in marriage that you are healed before you enter into the next thing, because you bring in so much, so much bags, even the mental stuff that goes on in your mind and the things that you bring over into a new relationship, it affects that relationship when you're not healed. And so we had to go through the process of being dysfunctional and not healed and trying to build a healthy marriage. And it was very difficult because of how we entered into it. It really does matter how you start a thing and how you enter a thing. But thanks be to God, through the power of God, that regardless of how we started it, God came in, interrupted it, and he caused something supernatural to begin to happen in us. And so I'm here to say today, I don't care how your marriage starts. It doesn't matter how you entered into it, but if you would trust God with your covenant, if you would trust God with your marriage, that he will restore, he will build, he will cause things to begin to happen. And so for those of you that say, oh, I don't have the fairy tale type marriage, there's a lot of us that don't. But God is able to turn that thing around. He's able to make just a blessing come out of where the enemy desired to curse. And now my husband and I walk together in ministry, and we serve and build other couples, but hell came after our marriage. Hell came after us, and it did not want us to do what we were called to do. And in fact, he wanted us to even start to produce cycles of dysfunction, even in our home and in our children. But God came in and he stopped it, and he caused a halt to come to it. So we're gracious to God for that and for what he's done in our marriage and in our lives.
Well, listen, we're absolutely grateful. I'm telling you, it was days where we would get to a point where we just said whatever we wanted to say to one another. We did whatever we wanted to do to one another. We wasn't concerned about feelings, wasn't concerned about somebody being broken. Both of us were not healed. Even though I wasn't married, I came from a past relationship, and neither one of us were healed before we got together. I feel like that is a big deal, and that is something that we just need to deal with. We need to get healed. It's kind of like when Joshua dealt with the troops, they were cut. He told them, listen, before y'all do anything, y'all got to get healed first. Y'all got to stay in the camp until you get healed. Stay until you get healed, because all it's going to do is bring stuff into a marriage that doesn't have to be there. It's okay to wait. I'm all for marriage, but it's okay to say, hey, I'm not ready for this. I'm not prepared for this, However, once you do it, now you're in it. And so now you're going to have to deal with stuff that you probably should have taken care of before you got with your husband or with your wife. And so, but when we went through rough times, we went through very difficult seasons, very hard seasons. And in the midst of it, we were having children, we were having children. And so now what do? We have 3 kids. We have all this stuff, all this responsibility. I'm still trying to preach. My wife is still prophesying. It was days where we were in church. I'm talking about in church. I'm preaching. She's prophesying. We going home. As soon as we get in the car, we hard down going at it with each other, but putting on a face for people. And so we had to make a decision like, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. We don't want to be that couple, the one that preaches and prays and prophesies and do all this other stuff, and everybody from the outside looking in saying, hey, you guys are powerful, wonderful couple, things like that. No, we want to be the type of people that says, hey, this is not just a marriage for a face, but this is something that's going to be real. And we had to make a decision to actually bond together, come together, and say we're going to put our differences aside, and how do we work on this thing? Because oftentimes we try to figure out a way not to work on it. But we said, no, I love you enough. I love my children enough. I love this thing enough. We made a commitment. We said we're going to do this thing. So what do we have to do to get this thing together? And I think through the difficult times, through the hard stuff, is what really, really put us close together. We didn't have to go through it, but guess what? We did go through it.
And even adding on to what my husband say, don't live your marriage for people.
Absolutely.
You need to be happy, and you need to produce happiness based upon one another. Like you're pleasing one another. Sometimes in our marriages, we work harder to put on an image for people, and work harder for people to appear to be happy. You don't want to appear to be happy. You want to be happy. And so we need to not take so much investment on trying to build and construct something for people to see. You've got to go home with that man or that woman every night. And so you want to create happiness within your home, and not for the sake of pleasing people and what they think and what they see from the outside. Because because truly what goes on and what is really in manifestation on the inside will show on the outside.
Yes, it will.
You don't have to prove for people what you have within your home when it is genuine and authentic between one another. And so I think that as you begin to build your marriage and as you begin to build relationship, it's important that you understand that this thing ultimately is about you and your spouse, and you want to work to make sure that you guys are healthy, not for what people see, but for what you have intimately one with another. Tonight we wanted to deal with exit strategy, because just an exit strategy, and the topic was, it's broken, I don't want to fix it. Because I know all too well how in marriage, how sometimes when things are going on, the best solution that we feel is just to jump ship, just be done with this, just walk away.
I don't need this.
And a lot of times this generation will feel like, you'll hear them talk, it's just not working, I'm leaving, I'm done, I'm done with this. And that's fine if you were dealing with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, but when we start talking about covenant and coming together and being a covenant couple and being married, it's deeper than it's just over.
Absolutely.
When we were in the before we get married, it's over. You go your separate ways. There's nothing. You're not bound by anything. But when you're married, we just want to kind of talk about tonight how we want to really overcome the mindset that says it's broke and I'm really not trying to fix it.
Right.
Because we need to be invested enough to understand the importance of staying in it to fix it, staying in it to fight for it, staying in it to contend for your covenant and for what you guys have established. Marriage is important, and it's not to be compared with a play relationship that's not no vows have been exchanged, but you need to look at this thing and you need to present it like you are in it for the long haul.
Absolutely.
There is no exit strategy. That's not just an alternative to if this does not work, or we'll just be done with it. And so we want to make sure that people see marriage from a different perspective. So I wanted to kind of define an exit strategy. This was a term that I recently learned. For those of you that are watching, I got involved in real estate and I started studying my field and just studying what it means to have an exit strategy. And as I was researching, I kind of wrote it down for you guys. I thought it was so powerful that an exit strategy is primarily something that an entrepreneur or an investor or business person would use. And what it is any person that makes a decision to enter into any kind of long contract or covenant or anything, an exit strategy is put in place to safeguard the individual from undergoing any kind of loss or something that could be detrimental to them during an agreement. And so what happens, an exit strategy is defined as a pre-planned basically strategy that allows you to extricate yourself from a difficult situation that is likely to become unpleasant or difficult. So in other words, when you think of marriage in terms of entering in with an exit strategy, it's like when you went into your marriage on day one, you already had pre-planned in your mind that if this doesn't work, I'm cutting it off.
I'm out.
I'm leaving it. I'm not going to participate. I'm not going to be in this. And so it's fine for when you enter into business strategies and that kind of thing. But here lately, as I began to just, even deal with marriage and talk to people about marriage, more and more people are entering the covenant with a pre-planned mindset on how you're going to get out if this thing doesn't work. And so I want us to begin to shift our minds and not take on that mentality of, if this doesn't work, I'm just out of here. I'm just going to jump off board. I'm just going to jump ship. Because it's not that easy.
We should never go into not a marriage with a mindset that says, I have other options. I have an alternative to this thing. Now, we understand things may happen during a marriage or whatever, but when we go into it, our mindset should be, I'm in this thing for the long haul. Because if you shift your mind that way, when problems arise, it's like, okay, I don't have a choice. It's almost like I don't have a choice to leave this thing. I have to stay through it and fix it. It's almost like if you have goals and you focus on your goals and things like that, when situations arise, you're not just going to stop doing it because you want to see this thing flourish. You want to see this thing progress. I want to see the best in my wife. I want to see the best in my husband. So whatever compromise I have to make, whatever thing I have to do, if it's me fixing my attitude, if it's me changing some things about myself, if it's us coming together, doing, whatever whatever we have to do, counseling, talking to people, getting friends, going out, making sure we stay dating, whatever we have to do, we need to ensure that we are making progress and we are advancing and not just saying, I'm going to give up. It is all, in anything you do outside of marriage, anything, it is always an easier decision to just stop. It's easy to stop something because I can just say I'm done and it's over with. And so, but in marriage, it don't work like that. And so when you get into this thing, like my wife was talking about the exit strategy, we shouldn't have an exit strategy. You shouldn't keep the numbers in your Rolodex just in case my wife mess up tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you keep a relationship that that, I can always go back to because they're always going to be waiting on me. No, we don't need to do that. We don't need to have,
throw the black book away.
Separate bank accounts and putting money away and store it up just in case I got something to do. No, what we need to do is that we need to come on one accord. We need to talk. What is the problem? Why can't this thing be fixed? What are we doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? What do you need to see in me? How do we come together so we won't always be at heads? How do I merge how you were raised and how I was raised? How do we merge this stuff together? Because oftentimes we get into a lot of stuff because of who we are before we got married. And the problem is we try to change that person and make them into who we want them to be, as opposed to saying, hey, this is who you are. Let me try to fit my ways, fit myself into your life and vice versa, instead of trying to change that individual. Now, there may be some things that need to change, some character traits or some bad habits. All that stuff comes with the territory. That needs to change. But you can't change a person's personality. You shouldn't change who a person is. You can't change a person's upbringing. You can't change how they feel, but however, as a married couple, you guys need to come together and say, hey, how do I compromise? Because I grew up like this doesn't mean it has to be like this. My perception of marriage before I got married was this. Now that I'm in this thing, I realize like, hey, this thing is real. This thing is something that I didn't even account for this kind of warfare, and so it's one of the things where you cannot have a strategy to end it just because of difficult situations.
Yeah, and as I said, an exit strategy is put in place at the beginning. So it's a mentality and a mindset that you shouldn't have coming into the beginning of a marriage. Yeah. You should not be at the altar thinking that if this does not work, I will just divorce him or her. That is not, don't go in with that kind of mentality, but instead you go in with the mindset, I'm going to the end.
Absolutely.
This thing is forever.
Absolutely.
And then you fight. It takes fight in marriage. You have to contend for your marriage.
Absolutely.
You have to fight against the attacks and what the enemy is trying to bring. Even when he brings blows and different situations to your house, you have to begin to fight for it. You cannot just stand back and let the enemy do what he wants to do in your marriage, in your home,
That's right.
in anything that God has established. You have got to understand that the enemy is not going to just let you just go ahead and have this pleasing, happy little marriage. You must contend for it. You must block his assignments. You must stop. And one of the key ways that I have found in combating the enemy is communication with your spouse.
Yes.
You can literally overcome lies and anything the enemy is sending just by sitting down and communicating with one another and discussing the things that need to be discussed and coming and bringing down the spirit of deception. You don't know what could be going on with one another, but at the point that you sit down and you come into agreement and you begin to talk and communicate, the enemy is exposed. His assignment is brought down, and your marriage will remain blessed.
Listen, if you can't talk about it, it's never going to be fixed. If you can't sit down with your husband or your wife and say, hey, this is what's wrong with me. This is what's wrong. I believe it's what's wrong with our marriage. And if we can never get to that point, then it's going to be a continuous thing of you guys are always going to be at odds, always going to be, at each other's throat. But if you don't talk, I had to learn that because I'm not a big talker. I'm not a big, I wasn't a big communicator. My wife has helped me to be a communicator. I used to hold stuff in until it got to a point where, I only said something when I was mad. I only said something when I was upset. And then it all came out the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? And all this stuff could have been fixed with a conversation, but that was my personality before I got married. And so I had to adjust my personality because I can't bring that into this, because when I'm dealing with myself, I can hold stuff in. But when I'm dealing with somebody else, I can't expect her, because she's a prophet, to see everything I got going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, you should have felt this. No, you shouldn't have. I shouldn't have felt nothing. You should have told me so we can discuss it, so we can talk about it. Amen. And so we just have to get to a place where we are not entering into a marriage where we are wanting to have a way out, because sometimes we can almost want a way out. It's like, because it's the responsibility is great, y'all. Listen, it's 14 years in. And by year 5, it was like, I don't know if this is for me.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. I don't know if this is for me, because it was a lot of work. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to work this hard.
Key too. Marriage is work. Marriage is work.
Yeah.
If you think that you're going to get into a marriage and every day, let me tell you, I want to say from year 1 to about year 3 or so, it's like the honeymoon stage or something.
Yeah.
It's like going on. But then reality sets in about the 4th year. And then, you started noticing things about one another. You start getting frustrated with certain things and things like that. And it ain't so, how we first met. And you ain't all lovey-dovey. All of a sudden, little things that he does irritate you or she does. And so you've got to be realistic in marriage and really begin to deal with that. And so one of the things that my husband and I were talking about before we came on is that when you start dealing with an exit strategy and believing that you could just jump off board whenever things don't work, one of the things that you have to evaluate is commitment. How do you see commitment? How do you define commitment? Because the only reason why you would just jump off board or just be done with a thing or whatever the case is maybe your perception of what real commitment is, maybe you have to define what that is.
Yeah.
And so we kind of define commitment, and commitment literally means it's the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause or activity.
Yes.
Marriage requires dedication.
Dedication.
It requires dedication. If you can't be dedicated to this thing, you might as well just go ahead and throw your hands up right now, because it requires dedication. It requires a mindset to be in it, to win it. To not just, just get frustrated or be overcome by emotion. That's another thing. You cannot be overcome by emotion in marriage. If you're thinking about marriage, if you desire to be married, you cannot be overcome in moving your emotions, flipping out and walking away from. I can't tell you the stories that I've heard of people that are walking away from marriages over stuff that's so petty.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so the level of commitment, evaluate how you see commitment. What does real commitment mean to you?
What does it look like?
What does it look like? What do you think commitment is? Do you think that it's okay to no longer be committed when you feel that somebody is no longer committed to you?
Yeah.
That's another thing in marriage. There are times where you won't feel like you're being treated the way that you are treating your spouse.
Yeah.
Does that give you the right to exit? Does that give you a right to say, this is broken, I don't want to fix it? What at what point? Where's your breaking point? At what point do you say enough is enough?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a continuous work, and there are going to be days where you feel like your wife just don't care that much, and she might not that day. This is the reality. She might not care that day. You know what I'm saying? Because people are people, and we have to listen. We make a decision to love one another on a regular basis. I make a decision to get up and stay in this thing. I make a decision to get up and work for our marriage. It's all a decision. There may not be easy decision. After 14 years, the decision is made. It's easy for me now, but after a couple years, it wasn't easy. I had to really go through. Like, I was like 24, 25 years old. I'm like, I don't need this. And then
there are times when I like my husband. There are times when I don't like my husband, but I always love him.
Absolutely.
But there are times when I don't like him, and I'm sure there's times where he don't like me. But it never goes to the place where we're saying we're gonna leave.
And let me tell you something too. That's out of order. It's funny that when you get married, all of a sudden you get all this attention from men or from women. Especially when you're going through, because it seems like during those times, that's when the interest in you heightens.
Yes.
And so, like, you need to be mindful of that. If you wasn't getting all these numbers beforehand, please understand this is the trick of the enemy. Or even if you were, that's not the point. The point is the interest in you heightens when you are going through at home.
Yes.
Because the enemy knows. He loves to break covenant. And if he can break covenant, he's done his job. He hates the family structure because it says unity, it says togetherness, it says wholeness, and he hates that. And so I'm telling you, when you are at odds with your spouse, it's almost like, listen, don't even, if you feel like you need to confide in somebody that you're not interested in.
Spiritual leader,
one of your friends that's married.
Close covenant, brother or sister in Christ,
yes.
something to that degree.
A married friend, not a single one that's going to give you advice based on him being single or her being single. Because I'm telling you, like it's almost like we're looking for something to validate while we're going to leave.
Absolutely.
And we don't want that. We want to look for things and look for stuff that's going to say, I want my wife, I want my husband, I'm broken right now, I'm hurt right now, I don't feel like dealing with this right now, but give me a little bit of time and I'll be okay. We need them kind of people in our lives, not people that's going to speak negatively into our marriages. And and we deal with that, especially when you're young, when you got young friends that's not married, and like, they'll flat out tell you, I don't know what you get married for anyway. I'm out here living life. You need to live your life. No, this is, listen, when you say I do, that is your life. You can't live like a single man or woman once you say I do. And you can't use an argument as an excuse to go tipping, to go out, to go do none of this stuff. But if you be mad downstairs on the couch. Be mad in another room. Amen?
Another thing, the question that just kind of remains and is up in the air, when it is broken, do I actually try to fix it?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes.
Yes, absolutely.
You do whatever you can to fix your marriage.
Absolutely.
Whether it's counseling, just getting professional counseling, going to, receive counsel for your spiritual leader, psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever it is that you need, but you want to put in the work to save your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
This is, we're moving into an era where it's just like, if it don't work, find somebody new.
Yep, I'm good.
And it's not what God intended. It's not what He designed.
Absolutely not.
And there is so much that comes with doing stuff like that. It
yes.
opens up all kinds of doors of dysfunction and disorder.
Yeah.
And it just opens the door for an enemy. I'm telling you that you're hearing the testimony straight from us. I know all too well what it feels to be in an adulterous relationship.
Yeah.
And I know how dysfunctional that it becomes. And I know all of the feelings and the emotions that are tied into it and all the people that are affected. It is very painful
mm-hmm.
to open up a marriage to that type of dysfunction and that kind of stuff. And so you want to make sure that you are using wisdom in your marriage and that you are allowing the Holy Spirit to deal with you about right decisions and right mindsets in marriage.
Yes.
Just absolutely. It is just important. If you guys knew how aggressive the enemy has been going after marriages and trying to tear up families, it's just unacceptable
yeah.
To allow him to come in and do what he wants to do in marriages. And so I'm just literally asking that you guys would just begin to fight and contend for your marriages.
Absolutely.
I hate divorce. I've also,
hate it.
Just to share some of my testimony, as I told you, my husband and I entered into an adulterous relationship because I was technically still married, but divorce was devastating.
Yes.
Divorce was devastating to my home, to my children, to my son at the time. And so divorce is not just an easy solution. It's not just an easy way out. Divorce devastates families, and it hurts.
It does.
And it causes a lot of pain. When the scripture says that we are to leave and then cleave
yes.
and be joined, we are like if me and my husband were literally joined here. It's what a divorce does is it just literally tears. It causes a tear,
yeah.
and it's painful, and it causes wounds. And so, if you don't have to endure that type of stuff, guys, fight for your marriages.
Please fight for
them.
Please fight for
Fight for them. And when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of God will lift a standard against him. But we don't want to allow the enemy to do what he wants to do. And so we want to even be mindful of the vows that we've made to one another.
Absolutely.
And the commitment to be with one another. You know, as my husband has performed a few marriages, and I guess the new end thing now is that people are changing their vows and they're getting away from traditional vows, and people are not wanting to say "to death do us part" or "in sickness and in health," and everybody's like, "I'm writing my own vows, I'm doing this, I'm doing that." But I feel like some of the traditional vows laid a strong foundation for what we were entering into.
Absolutely.
And we declared things like, you know, "to death do us part," and "sickness and health," you know,
for richer,
and
or, for
richer or for poor. It pretty much just lets you know that all boundaries, all any obstacles, we will overcome together. We will be together until death separates us. And so, I think it's time to put those type of foundational things back in place as it pertains to marriage.
Absolutely. And you know what? It was a question that was asked on here earlier, and I want to kind of answer that question. My wife was kind of alluding to it already, but what was his name? Marlon Badger. He asked, and he said, "How do you react when the other has been hurt so bad in the past, but holds it against the other party?" And so I kind of want to answer that question because, like my wife, she was talking about how divorce was devastating. In the beginning of our marriage, she was devastated, you know, and oftentimes it wasn't talked about why. And I wasn't even sensitive to why. I just thought she had attitude, honestly. I'm like, well, she got an attitude problem. I can't fool with this, you know. You know, and that was really, I was 21 years old, 22. I'm like, you know, because she was cool when we met, you know, we talked all the time, but like I didn't realize how much it hurt her to actually have to go through a divorce, because when she entered into her first marriage, she was young, 18, 19 years old. She didn't expect to be divorced. You know what I'm saying? And so it was like a severance of ties. And so what I had to learn is that I had to learn to love her through her hurt. I had to learn to put down my own preconceived ideas on how she should feel, on, you know, because I wasn't going through it. I had to be sensitive to her needs. I had to really be there for her. I had to be somebody that would listen to her and not just always judge the fact, you know, judge her or what she was going through. I couldn't be that. I had to love her back to life. Sometimes it is the responsibility of the spouse to be the one to uphold the relationship when it's going through, when the other person is going through something, because that, I'm telling you, it'll do so much for that individual's confidence in you. It'll do so much for the relationship, because they'll see you in a different light. They'll see you like, okay, this man or this woman actually loves me. And even though I was a wreck, I was a mess to him. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't, you know, my wife, she wasn't always the one lashing out and things like that. You know, I've said some things and done some things, but there was a period where it was like, I was like, my God, I don't understand, you know, what this stuff is. But my wife, she was hurting. She was hurting. She was going through. I didn't even take into account that, you know, she was just severed from something that she had made covenant with. And so, but what I had to do, I had to learn to love her through her mistakes. I had to learn to love her through her turning her nose up at me, you know, through her not wanting to speak, whatever. And so that's my thing, to helping the individual get over what they're going through, because they lash out all the time because they've been hurt so bad. We have to learn to love that person, love them back to life. Speak words into them. Take them out. Show them. You know, you don't have to bring up. You know, you just show them who you're going to be to them. You don't have to try to prove something to them. You don't have to you know, be the person that the other person wasn't. You need to be yourself. Be the husband that she's looking for. Be the wife that he's looking for. If they're going through that bad, be that individual to stand in the midst of the relationship and say, hey, if you're hurting, I'm going to take the blows right now. And guess what? It's going to get better over time. Be that person. Be that one. And I guarantee you, and I'm a living witness, that if you love her back to life, I am telling you, it will change. It will happen, and it won't be very long. But you got to remain consistent, because this person that you marry is going through a whole lot, going through a lot of stuff, dealt with a whole bunch of issues that just hasn't been resolved yet. So if you be that person to stand up and be the strong one in the relationship, you know, sometimes we have to do that. When somebody's going through, we can't, you know, always kick them down and say, hey, why you ain't meeting my needs? Well, guess what? At the moment, your needs need to be put aside for a moment, and it's okay.
And I can honestly say it takes a patient person to tend to somebody's wounds.
Absolutely.
And what I was extremely wounded. My husband was also wounded, but I was wounded, and it took patience, and it took just his love for me to mend me back to a place where I was healthy. Because like he explained, I was very dysfunctional. One, I didn't give myself any time to heal when I left one relationship, and I left one dysfunctional relationship to enter into a new one. And like you said, children were involved, and there was a lot that was going on, and so it took. It took me being loved back to life, and he was patient to do that. And so when you enter into a marriage, and it's not necessarily the storybook type, or you enter into it in an ideal situation, because there are marriages out here every day they enter into them, and you don't necessarily enter them the way that that you would like to, or a fairy tale type of way. Then it requires patience. It requires love for one another. It requires respect. And it requires that you understand that you're literally having to patch up wounds and to heal, get somebody to a place where they're healthy. And it can be very difficult. And sometimes it can be just difficult because you got two dysfunctional people, and that's who we were. We were two dysfunctional people trying to make each other functional. We were not whole, trying to make each other whole. And it was evident of that. And the Lord just came in, and like I said, he made us both whole, and then we were able to begin to build one another up. But we were so angry and so full of much.
What? It was a lot. Like when we sit and think about it, we both have really went through a lot. I had lost my grandmother was killed a year prior, and I hadn't really dealt with it. I was with someone that I had known forever, and thought, I thought I was gonna marry her, honestly. And so, and that wasn't resolved, like, as far as me getting healed from that. And like I said, we already dealt with my wife being married, and then she lost a cousin that it was just a big blow to their family. And so it was a lot going on within a year's time, and we trying to enter into a relationship without dealing with stuff. Like, I never really dealt with it. I cried a little bit when my grandma was murdered and things like that. But I never really dealt with it, and I was going through a whole lot at the time. And
I'll also say, don't try to use people to be your relief.
Absolutely.
That's another thing that I believe, that being dysfunctional really and meeting one another, we try to use each other to be the healing for one another. We try to use each other to be relief for one another. Like, I'm hurting, and your presence, you being around me. And as we begin to be together more and really begin to even get closer with God, we realize the importance of letting God fulfill that need that we were looking for in one another. And so we would lash out at one another when the other one was not able to fulfill the need that we needed at the time, because there are some wounds, or most wounds that you experience, they are very deep and they hurt. And you have to allow the Lord to heal. There is no man or woman that will ever be able to cause the real healing to come to those areas. And so you have to allow the Lord to begin to heal you of that hurt and that pain. And I'm just gonna say, don't ever enter into a relationship, a covenant, or even looking for a potential spouse, and you are looking for that person to be your relief, be your relief from pain and issues and stuff, because they will never be able to fulfill that need. Ever. That need can only be met by God.
Ever. Amen. And so we want to just remind you guys, like this and share this. Comment. We're going to try to answer some questions. But we are excited to be with you all. I'm telling you, my wife and I, we are advocates for marriage. Like I said, we've been married 14 years. We haven't been married the longest time, but 14 years is a long time. I know that we have seasoned people. I know we have young people, but I think we can still help. We can help anybody. And, we've been through a lot together. And the thing is, we've been through it together. If there were days where I wanted to leave, but I end up going outside and coming back home late. There were days where, I wanted to, I just wanted to walk away, and I really felt strong. I really felt like I had a right to. But I realized, it's like the Lord convicted me, like, well, no, you don't. You have a wife you have to take care of. You have a family you got to take care of. And you get in an argument, sir, is not a it's not legitimate enough, sir, for you to walk away. And so, because I was that type when I was younger, if I didn't like something, my mama said, I just go to my grandmother's house. You know, if I got upset there, I would just go back home. You know, it was just.
And also, if you're married and you're married and you have a spouse, don't you dare go out and start comparing your spouse because somebody has more money or more stability or have the ability to do more for you. God has blessed you with who He has established for you to be with. Don't ever start comparing who God has blessed you with. Oh, my life would be so much better if I was with so and so. You know, he wanted to be with me years ago, or even me, and beginning to think back. Always honor and bless the one who God has established for you. Yes. Because at the end of the day, that's your favor.
That's your favor.
That's where your blessings are going to come from. And see, if you just stop lusting or desiring what somebody else has, you don't understand that you have the ability to unlock what's in your spouse to produce what it is that you desire or what you want to see. Yeah. You have that ability.
You do.
You can unlock your spouse into a fresh season of blessing and doors, but don't ever, down your spouse or talk down to them or make them feel less than who they are because you're looking at the next marriage or looking at what somebody else has. Just because somebody else has it doesn't mean that if you got with that individual, you would have it.
Absolutely.
So you just be happy with who God has blessed you with and continue to build one another up, because you guys need to see this thing as a team and building and constructing together.
Absolutely.
And being able to empower each other together. And I say take the world by storm.
Take it.
Take the city, take the world by storm. You have the ability to do that, as a powerful man and woman of God that are connected and yoked together on one accord.
It's so much power in staying together. It's so much it's just a lot, because I realized if I had left, because I wanted to leave early in a relationship. It was, a couple years in. If I had done that, I would have missed out on really my favor. I would have missed out on my future. I would have missed out on everything, just because I didn't want to put the work in. And so I didn't want to fix it. I wanted to just leave. But the more I stayed, the more I realized this is who I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. Not just a day or two, not just a couple weeks, not just when it's okay. And it took a while for me to just really get resolved. Not because I didn't love her, but I didn't know if I want to do this marriage thing. And that was in the beginning. In the beginning, it was like that. And years later, we sit and laugh and talk about some of the stuff that we did. We were like, that was just so stupid. It was really ridiculous. Some of the arguments that we had, I can't even remember what they were about, honestly, because they were stupid. It was like if I took my socks off on the floor and left them, like, why would you do that? It's like, it was really something basic like that turned into a hard down. You're this, you're that. I'm taking the kids, whatever. It's like something that small turned into something so great because we had unresolved issues that we hadn't dealt with and things like that. So.
And I'm going to say this too. Don't be ashamed of your story. Some people would say, why would you sit on a Facebook Live and begin to tell people intimate details about your marriage and about how you got together? And why would you do that? Well, we're doing it to help somebody.
Absolutely.
Because there are so many marriages that are hiding or afraid to say what God has brought them out of, or afraid to address things that need to be addressed because of the way people will look at them. Well, you have to get to a place where you just deliver from what people are saying about you. Because you don't know who needs to hear your story.
I'm telling you.
You don't know who needs to hear what God has brought you out of. And as I stated in other videos, my husband and I are often complimented about how we compliment one another. Even in ministry, we flow. You compliment each other so well. Well, you don't know the hell that we had to go through to come to a place where we complimented one another. It was real hell. Like, I'm serious. And so it did not come easy. And we wasn't just born into it. It wasn't just like from day one. We were flowing together and it was oh so awesome.
Right.
but it was seasons where we were going to walk away from one another.
Yeah.
There were seasons where we were just tired of marriage altogether. But God's hand and his power came in, and he began to thrust and do something down in us that caused us to be joined, like literally linked together, and refusing to walk away no matter what goes on. Refusing. We are more resolved at 14 years than what we have ever been, that we're in this to win it.
Absolutely.
We are in this to go to the end. And so I say tonight, no matter who you are, resolve to be with your husband and wife. You should not be in your first, second, third, fifth year saying, oh, is this still my husband? I don't know if I want to be in this. The devil is a liar. You're married. Resolve to be with that man or that woman and stay in it and fight for your marriage. Nothing is going to come easy.
No.
Everything is worth fighting for. Anything worth having is worth fighting for. And so you have to fight and contend for it, and you have to block off these assignments and tactics of the enemy, and just fight for it with whatever you have. And don't just give up and walk away.
Absolutely.
Guys, you got to fight. The enemy is celebrating how he's tearing up families and tearing up marriages. But it's time for us to reverse this and stand strong and not allow the enemy to come in. I'm talking about whether it be through adultery, adulterous relationships, or whatever it is. It needs to be dealt with so that we can be free and we can build stronger marriages.
Absolutely.
We're asking that you would share this video as well. I'm praying that this will help somebody, and that somebody will be blessed, and that a marriage will be blessed. Maybe this will prevent somebody from making the decision to divorce, or this will prevent somebody from walking away, or even if somebody is struggling tonight, I pray that this video would convict you and you would stay at home and not go lay with another woman, or you would stay at home and not go lay with another man, but that you would honor your covenant and stay at home tonight. And so I ask that you guys would share this and that it would bless somebody, because like I said, my husband and I are not speaking on what we've heard. We are first proof evidence that God will take something dysfunctional that everybody around you would say that will never work, and God will breathe on it and it will continue to work. He will resuscitate a dead thing and cause it to be resurrected and cause people to bless it and desire to have it, because his hand and his power is upon it.
It is. You know what? I'm at the point now where it's like, you know, like, you know, the stuff. And you know, the funny thing is when you actually work through stuff and actually go through things, stuff don't bother you like it used to. Like, if you resolve with your husband or your wife, and you know, it's some other things. You know, it may be deliverance issues, and that's beyond. Hey, Pastor Keith, how you feeling? And so, you know, we are just I'm resolved though, and like it's funny that when you get resolved, it doesn't even matter. I don't care how fast she is. I don't care how good she walk. I don't care about none of that stuff. Like when you get resolved, like the stuff that may have tempted you in the past, it won't tempt you now because it doesn't matter. This is who I'm to be with. This is my family. This is my future. When you look at your husband or you look at your wife and say, "Hey, I refuse to forfeit my future for you." I refuse to forfeit my future for what? For what? A job? For an opportunity?
For a quick one-night stand?
You know, just to say, just for a notch on my belt? Please, it ain't that serious. It's not that serious.
Don't sacrifice your family for one night. It is not worth it.
Yeah.
Do not sacrifice your family for one night, one thrill, one frill. It is not worth it.
It's not. It's not.
Keep your marriage.
Yeah, keep it. Keep it. I don't care what it's been through. Marriage will last forever as long as you put the work in. You put that time in, put that work in, it will last. What if the Lord looked at us after every mistake that we made and said, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and walk away from this relationship"? Please, we will be out here bad. Look at
the scripture says he's married to the backslider.
Married to the backslider.
You know, and so even God's nature will, you know, he'll pursue us. And so we need to, like I said, begin to really see how important covenant is and just really fight for what it is that God is doing. And
yes.
And just bottom line, hey, Apostle Ron, it's good to see you.
This is my future. Hey, I was looking at her. I almost had to turn it off. You don't hit me.
So
fight for your future, y'all.
Fight
Seriously.
for your future, and if it is broke, then yes, you do need to try to fix it.
Absolutely.
This is not the season to just walk away from marriages or to think that the grass is greener on the other side. You need to hold on. You need to fight. You need to contend for your marriage.
That's right.
And we need to quit letting the enemy do what he wants to do.
That's right.
Amen.
I had somebody on here say, I think his name was Steven. He said that he had been married twice and divorced twice. And he don't think it's for him. Like, how do you get over that? I would say to you that don't be discouraged, because just because you got divorced a couple times does not mean you cannot have a wife. I would say get healed, because that is not a easy thing to come out of. That's not an easy thing to get over. But I'm telling you that when you get healed from whatever wounds you had, don't get into a mode of depression or making yourself feel like you're not worthy of this type of relationship. But I would say to you, continue to get healed. And if you want a wife, tell the Lord, hey, I want a wife, but I need to know what I like, who I need to be. I need to know the type of husband I need to be. I need to know the healing that needs to take place in my life. I want a wife. You know what I'm saying? So don't think that because you went through something that you can't obtain something. You get healed first. You go through whatever you have to go through, get healed first, take it to the Lord and say, hey, listen, I want a wife. And so he said, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And I guarantee you, you go through the process and pretty much seek the Lord about it. You will, you can get over this thing, and you can find you a wife.
And the key thing, as my husband said, is to get that healing. And so seek out a counselor or somebody that can help you work through those issues and those things that have happened in your heart. Because one of the reasons why you could be having so many issues in your marriage, or it keeps ending in divorce, could be some heart issues and some things that you need to process through, that you may be taking into your new covenant and your new marriage. And so seek help and make sure that you're whole, because you don't want to enter into anything and you not be whole.
That's right.
You want to focus on yourself. You want to use this time that you're not with anyone, and just focus and get to know yourself and just receive that healing that you need so that you can go into your next relationship healthy and whole.
Yeah. So look, we want you guys to share this, comment, like this. We will be on here every Monday at 7 p.m. and every Saturday at 5 p.m. So we want you guys to, to follow us and like us and things like that. We're advocates for marriage. We are ones that will. I go to bat for marriage. I know people say I'm never getting married and things like that, but I'm going to advocate for marriages, because I believe there's definitely power in covenant. There's power in unity and things like that. And so I don't like to see. I know it ends in divorce sometimes. I don't like to see that. I just don't like it.
There are some situations that warrant divorce.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to sit up here and say there are situations that warrant divorce, and so that's completely fine. But I mean, like I said, my husband and I are talking from the perspective of what the Bible says and what the Bible declares, and we're teaching from that perspective. Yeah. But you are hearing this testimony from two people who have experienced some of the lows in marriage, and we have overcome them by the power of God.
Absolutely.
We know what it means to engage and be involved in an adulterous relationship. We know what it is I know what it is to experience divorce, a child out of wedlock, and just different things like that. And I stand today to tell you, God has made me victorious, and He has set me free, and He has set my husband and I free, and He has blessed our marriage. We have a blessed marriage, and it moved from dysfunction to be functional. And so there is nobody that can tell me that God cannot and will not do it, because I am a living witness.
Yeah.
And so if you are watching this video tonight, and if you are having major issues in your marriage, I say to you, give it to God.
Yeah.
If you could handle it, you would have already fixed it. Absolutely. By now. You need to trust God with your marriage. You need to give God your marriage, and you need to believe Him to move like only He can. Because as I said, you are not looking at people that are just on here looking for Facebook likes and just trying to get some attention. No. But we are doing this by the power of God and out of obedience, that the Lord has dealt with us about the need to begin to empower marriages and begin to tell of our story story
Yeah.
so that somebody can be blessed. There are some people that may have similar testimonies that my husband and I have, but because of shame and because of your belief that people won't accept you or receive you or whatever, I stand to tell you that people receive us every day. And we continue to minister the gospel, and we will continue to be ambassadors for Christ.
Yeah.
But we are ex-adulterers. We are having babies out of wedlock. We're everything, ex-fornicators.
All that.
We done it all, and God has continued to bless us, and we continue to be a blessing to His people. We are sold out to Him, and He is sold out to us.
Yeah.
And so I say to you, do not be fearful of your testimony, neither be ashamed. If you would just open your mouth and begin to share some of the things that the enemy has been telling you to hide, it'll actually set somebody free.
Absolutely. So we thank you guys for watching us. We thank you all for tuning in. We know you don't have to. We know that you guys can be, cooking in the kitchen, doing something. But you guys took out time to watch us and to, it's encouraging, because I believe that there are marriages that are healthy. I do believe that. But
Absolutely.
I believe there are marriages that are not healthy.
Yeah.
And so whether you're healthy or not, we still want to give pointers and things, how to stay healthy, because we've learned that as well. And so we thank you all for tuning in. This Friday, December 1st, here in Indianapolis, we will be having another Marriage Matters event, but this time we'll be going out and just fellowshipping with one another. So we'll be at
date night.
It's a group date night. So if you all haven't went out in a while, you all can come out and you all can come with us. It'll be enough of us there.
Have fun.
Come have
fun. The
fun.
power of community in marriage.
Yeah.
It is so awesome to be able to spend time with other married
Yes, it
couples.
is.
And so if you don't have married friends or people that you're around, come out. This has nothing to do with I'm a part of your church or you're a part of my church.
Just come out.
This has something to do with just fellowship, fun, having a great time, and being in the midst of community,
Absolutely.
other married couples.
Absolutely. When you get done Sunday, you can go back and get on your praise and worship team.
Amen.
Or whatever you do.
Amen.
It's not about that. It's about us promoting healthy marriages and just spending time with one another. We all don't have to go to the same church, be a part of the same ministry, be a part of the same, circle or whatever.
Amen.
We just want you all to come out and fellowship with us. So all married couples, young or old, fresh or new, seasoned, unseasoned, it doesn't matter. Come on out with us to Main Event. It's located in Indianapolis, Indiana. The address is 4016 East 82nd Street in Indianapolis. They got bowling. They got a whole bunch of fun stuff to do. So just, for you all to just come out and, especially if you ain't been out in a while. If you have, you still come. But if you haven't been out in a while, come on, bring your husband, your wife. You got time. And that's one thing that we learned, too. We have to learn to make time for our spouses.
Yes, date
Make
them.
time. We're pastors, and so it's easy to get caught up in ministry. And for years, we didn't even go anywhere.
Shut it down.
Listen.
Go on vacation.
Shut
hang
that
out
down.
and have fun. You only get one life. You better live your life and get it going with your spouse. Travel, do whatever you can do. Travel as much as you can.
Do something.
Get on a plane, go somewhere, but go out with one another. Don't let your love and your passion for ministry stop you from dating, looking at each other, hanging out, spending time, having real conversations. If you are leading a church, and this might be a little bit off topic, if all y'all talk about is service and structure and processes and protocol and what needs to happen and who needs to stand on the door and who needs to sit down and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, then you need a vacation. No, you gotta talk about more than that. I couldn't live like that.
I'm telling you, do something.
Go out, have fun, love your spouse. Again, we'll be together December 1st on Friday, so come on out. And then even before we close out, there's one last announcement. My husband and I will be celebrating our 8th year pastoral anniversary, and it will be at the Bela Marcia here in Indianapolis. And it's going to be from 6 to 9 p.m. We ask that you would come out and be with us. Come celebrate with us. It's been 8 long years.
Yeah.
It was very hard, just like marriage. It's been very hard.
It's been
God
difficult.
has blessed us to stay in it, and
Absolutely.
we love him, and we are
love our
excited
people.
about being in Indianapolis. We love our church. We love God's people. And so we ask that you would come out, be with us. It's gonna be a spirit of celebration. We're just gonna celebrate God and what he's doing in this new season.
That's right. December 17th
so if you're
from
watching
6
this video,
to 9.
you're invited. And there are tickets. You can register on Eventbrite. It's $40, not much. We spend that just eating out at McDonald's. So $40 for tickets. Come out, celebrate with us. We're going to have an amazing time.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Again, meet us back out here every Monday at 7 p.m., every Saturday at 5 p.m. We love you all. We thank you. We appreciate you. Everybody that tuned in. All of our church family that's on here, we love you guys. All of our family and friends from Chicago, pastors, leaders,
guys.
everybody.
We appreciate you.
Thank you guys. And so we'll see you guys on Saturday. Hopefully we'll see you Friday at the marriage matters event that we're having, the main event. But if you cannot make it out Friday, get on here Saturday, because we're going to have some other stuff that we want to talk about, and we just want to kind of help marriages and encourage you guys along the way. Okay, so
Amen.
We love you. Have a great night.
We appreciate
Listen,
you guys. Enjoy your night.
And if you're still eating Thanksgiving food, stop eating Thanksgiving
Throw it
food.
out.
It's Monday, okay? All right, go back to your regular diet.
Bye. God
love
bless
y'all.
you guys. Love you.